What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Horror Dads podcast. This is episode 134. I am Jamie. This is John, and we are the Horror Dads. Today, we're going to talk about a lot of things horror, but we're going to talk about the Halloween franchise with a writer named Andrew
Andrew Grevas.
Grevas.
Jamie's been practicing this name over and over again, so he doesn't
I'll
mess
mess
it
it
up.
up every time.
No big deal. But Andrew's a great dude. He just wrote and published the book Horror in Haddonfield, The Untold Stories of Halloween. So written by Andrew Grevas. And this is really there's a book on Twin Peaks called Reflections, which I've mentioned multiple times on this podcast. And it's an oral history of Twin Peaks in
Amazing
its
book.
Q&A style. This is a really comparable kind of format where Andrew weaves through the entire Halloween universe. He interviews 25, I think it is, cast and crew, different directors, writers, actors, authors. There's ton of great stuff in here. So this was a fascinating read. I really couldn't put it down.
Dude, just the format was surprisingly refreshing and fun as hell to read.
It was a ton of fun.
It's one of those where you start reading and you just don't want to look away. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And we don't want to
Good
deny
stuff.
anyone any further. So we're going to rally through our intro stuff, spend 10 minutes talking, catching up, and then we're going to get to our interview with Andrew, who, like we said, is a great talent, ton of fun. So, Jamie, let's catch up real quick before we do that. Not only do we interview Andrew, but we also have him rank the Halloween films. So we hear from him 13 down to 1, his ranking. So we didn't participate, but we've already done that before. So it's cool to hear from him. All right, man. Horror news. Did you watch the trailer for Don't Go in That House, Bitch?
I did, and it's amazing.
It looks absurd. Eli Roth and Snoop Dogg worked on this collaborative joke trailer kind of thing, very similar to what was done within, Grindhouse and whatnot
Sure,
to
with
get
Thanksgiving
greenlit.
Yep.
Exactly. And so they did this joke thing, which has now been greenlit for a project. So Snoop Dogg, Eli Roth, Don't Go in That House, Bitch. It seems like it's going to be a horror comedy, but the trailer, we've all seen what Eli Roth can do. He can get a little bit gruesome. So
That's what I love about, as much as I don't know if I'm an Eli Roth fan per se, but I love when he is in his pocket. And I feel like Thanksgiving, the whole thing, the trailer with Grindhouse and just everything about it, I really loved Thanksgiving. I felt like that was him at his best. So yeah, dude, this had his mark all over it in the good way.
yeah, being able to have a creative space. But what have you been watching, man? Anything new?
Oof, dude, I watched this movie from 1981.
Oh God.
The year, honestly, the year. I think this was either on Tubi or Plex, something like that. One of
Oh,
those
we found a gem
amazing
here.
free. It's called The Black Room,
Oh man, sounds dark.
and so this is a movie about a man who is married with kids, but wants to have extramarital relations with women, and he wants a safe space to do this. So he rents a room out of a beautiful house in the Hollywood Hills. This takes place in the Los Angeles area.
Okay.
So he'll have dinner with his kids and wife, put them to bed, and then go out. Or during the day when he's supposed to be at lunch or something, he'll go and
Man.
pick up women, bring them back to this room that he rented. It's painted black. The house is owned by a couple, I think they're brother and sister, and they happen to be serial killers, unbeknownst to him. So he's essentially bringing people back.
This is so dark.
Dude, it's super dark movie, super sexual, super uncomfortable to watch, maybe with other people.
So this is like New York Ripper style?
No, it's a different vibe than that.
Yeah.
It's more
Not as fun as New York Ripper.
exactly. Yeah. Not the New York
If you
Ripper's
could call
fun.
it. Yeah.
You can laugh throughout that one.
Sure.
No one's laughing at this
Man.
one. You know what I mean?
All right, so you're not
The
recommending
Black
this
Room. No, dude, check it out.
yeah.
Yeah. For horror fans that like something just a little on the dark edge, that feel like maybe they've seen everything, check it out. Also, The Ripper from 2001. I feel like you might have seen this. We might have talked about this before. It's essentially, it feels very much like a ripoff of Urban Legend. It's in a college campus. It's a group of kids trying to figure out who's.
So this is not Cry Wolf, but not far from Cry
It
Wolf.
feels sort of like that as well. They have a
Okay.
professor who is sort of a specialist in serial killer psychology, and there's people being killed, and the kills start echoing the first like 3 victims of Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, sure.
So
Figured that was going to be a
it's
tie-in
like
at some point.
it's one of those movies where it's like when it the first 15 minutes, you kind of have to adjust your eyes to the the level that this
Level
movie's
of
at.
contrast, and you're like, why does everyone look like grainy and yellow
Yeah, it does
almost?
this
Yeah.
weird thing with the I don't know if it's a jittery. It's one of those things where it's like, is something wrong with my TV, or is
Oh
this the
yeah,
way?
yeah.
Uh, but it's once you get in there, it's fun enough. The characters feel so familiar, like it feels so much like a ripoff. You know, people
Yeah.
say Cherry Falls is a rip. Cherry Falls doesn't feel like as much as a ripoff as this movie does to
Urban Legend, you said?
that type of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
the one kid from Disturbing Behaviors in it, so that doesn't help
Help the cause. Yeah.
exactly. But again, on its own, it's kind of fun. You know, it's that shit we like, a slasher.
Sure.
It's not perfect, but worth watching.
All right. Well, I actually checked out
That
the
was The Ripper, by the way.
from 2001, you said,
Yep.
right? Yeah. So I just checked out the sequel to The Babysitter. I realized
Mm,
I haven't seen this,
yeah,
the sequel.
on the
So,
boat, right?
yeah, dude, I
Yeah,
had fun with this movie. It was much more interesting than I thought it would be. I forgot how much I actually enjoyed The Babysitter, so I went back and watched that too.
it's a
And
great movie.
man, but I watched them in kind of reverse order.
What was it like watching them back to back? Is one clearly better, like the
That
first one?
original one, yeah.
Yeah.
The best thing I can liken it to is Happy Death Day, Happy Death Day to You. The way the universe, it's like we established a thing, it's comfortable and fun and funny, and everyone accepted it. So like, let's push a little bit more.
Yeah.
That kind of
Let's
happens.
milk it for
Yeah,
all it's worth. Yeah.
but dude, all in on those. Those are fantastic. They're a lot of fun.
That was one of the first times I had seen, like, knew that I was seeing Jenna Ortega. You know what I mean?
And I was shocked that Jenna Ortega was in this movie because I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Because
Yep.
I probably saw this 2, 3 years ago whenever it first
Yeah,
came out. Yeah. It's a good one.
yeah, it was fun. I also wrapped up Dexter. I think it was the season finale, this most recent
Oh,
episode.
shit.
I mean, they gave it serious finality, so I assume it's that. So yeah, I finished it,
Gotcha.
man. I really enjoyed it. I give it a big thumbs up. I know we talked
Awesome.
about this last episode, I think, but now that I've cycled through the whole thing, it's I have a firm pin to put on it and say, hey, good job, because I had a lot of fun with it, dude.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm driving through that right now, probably 7 episodes in,
Yeah, so
something
you're
like
getting
that.
close
Yeah,
there. I can't wait to talk about it in full with you once you finish it up.
definitely.
We can jump to what we've been buying because I bought something I
What'd you
watched,
get?
so it's
Yeah.
a good
Go
time.
ahead.
But I finally saw the new I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I
Oh,
bought it
yeah. Yeah. Um, all right. So we'll have to do like a separate episode
on
just on this
Patreon.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my high level observation is I couldn't tell, and I've actually watched it multiple times. I've
Yeah.
been doing a blitz of it to try and make a connection that probably doesn't or will not forge or exist, some sort of something with it. But I really was not, the writing I thought was really terrible.
All right. So your overall reaction is no.
Yeah, I think I'm a no. Yep.
So I've only seen it once.
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater, went in expecting to hate it, and kind of got myself to a point where I asked myself, what is the motivation behind like the writing? Like, what's the overall
Yeah.
motivation of
Why does
the
this
film?
movie
Is it
exist? Yeah.
supposed to be so I decided that my reaction really depended on the motivation of the of the movie making. So in my mind, I decided that it had to be a spoof. It just had to be with the writing. I don't know if it actually was.
If that's the
I
case,
took it as a spoof, and I enjoyed the hell out of it as that.
all right. Yeah. We'll put a pin in it and we can talk about it in more detail on Patreon. So jump over there if you're not on our Patreon because you'll want to be there to hear about that more. What about you buying anything, dude? Anything new
I have
coming?
not, no.
You're probably waiting for your first Spirit Halloween trip.
So, that was part of my family antic here is that we have not done Spirit yet, and we always do it as soon as you can. We're holding off this year. As a family,
Man,
we kinda decided, I think unspoken, like, I went down the one day, I was kinda like, "Ah," it was, like, late August, I think,
yeah,
maybe early September, and I said to the kids, like, "Hey, do you guys wanna do Spirit?" And typically, every year, they're like, "Jumping, let's go." This year, they were like, "Too soon."
man.
I think we've all learned you go too soon, you kind of spoil the.
Yeah,
And
you can ruin the magic
I understand, like, no,
preemptively,
there's no spoiling spirit. It's always amazing. Okay,
and we feel that way, but we also feel this
but
way. Yeah,
also
yeah,
there is nothing like that first time you go.
yeah.
You can't duplicate that every year. You go once, that's your first time. We're all putting it off. We're gonna go here soon.
I will say my family antic is the opposite of yours because I did go to Spirit Halloween
How was it?
last
Amazing.
weekend. It was great, man. I told the kids they could each pick something out, and they each got these like really nice, big, puffy, comfy blankets, and they're the ones they picked are Hocus Pocus themed. They have big myriad of different kind of comfy like throw blankets.
They
Yeah,
both did Hocus Pocus?
they did, and we were there with another family and went back to their house. We put a projector screen out in the front yard.
Oh,
They
yeah.
watched Hocus Pocus and cuddled up with their blankets, and we watched football inside and
Damn.
went out, watched a little Hocus Pocus, a little football back and forth. It was great.
Sounds like a great night.
Yeah, it was. What are you wearing over there, dude?
So I did the Terror Threads Halloween shirt tonight since we're talking to Andrew.
I know, man.
It just felt right.
I'm just trying to cling on to a couple last days of summer here. So I got my tie dye still going. I have
Yeah.
my Goosebumps shirt on. So this is my
Love it.
Abominable Snowman cover.
Cavity colors?
No, I got this at Meyer.
Old Navy.
I really did. I got it at Meyer.
Wait, you did?
Yes.
What? Wait, doesn't Cavity Colors have that exact
Well, if
collection?
it's-
That's a ripoff.
I don't know, man. I got it at Meyer though.
That's insane, dude.
Yep. All right, couple quick plugs, and we'll jump into our episode with Andrew. So as we mentioned, we do have a Patreon. If you want to head over to Patreon, we have a couple tiers. We do a few bonus episodes every month. So if you're caught up and you want more, head over there. Most of the content we're dropping there is video as well.
We have a horror happy hour coming soon for the patrons.
We do indeed. $5 tier, $10 tier, either tier will get you access to the happy hour. And quite frankly, if you want to come, we'll probably just let you come anyways.
Yeah. Drop you a link.
Yeah. So beyond that, we also have a website. If you want to grab some merch, you can do so there, horrordads.com. You can find us everywhere on social media at horrordads, though Instagram's our primary place that we do business. And if you find the time, giving us a 5-star review would be fantastic on any listening platform. Before we jump in, I do want to note Andrew was having some tech difficulties, so we only have him on audio. So apologies in advance for that. But Jamie, do you want to take the ambulance to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital?
Yes.
Let's do it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 134 of the Horror Dads podcast. Today, John and I are joined by an incredibly special guest, especially pertinent to the season. He wrote a book called Horror in Haddonfield, The Untold Stories of Halloween, and this is Andrew Grevas. Andrew, what is up, sir?
Not much. Thanks so much for having me on. Super excited to talk to you guys about the book today.
Dude, of course. So the book comes out. It's available for pre-order right now, I believe, on Amazon. It comes out when?
October 7th.
Oof,
Rad.
October 7th. Yeah, dude, this is a super exciting. You were kind enough to share a pre-read copy for both Jamie and I. We both rallied through it. We had a great time reading through. If you wouldn't mind, for the great people, can you give us the back of the novel or inside cover sleeve kind of overview of what this book is and what it's about?
Yeah, it's my love letter to the Halloween franchise. There's 25 cast and crew interviews and then some other special interviews with people not necessarily affiliated with the films, but kind of close to it. Some essays looking at unmade Halloween films and some surprises too. But at the end of the day, it's not quite an oral history, but it's as close as it gets. And I think longtime fans and newer fans of the Halloween franchise will dig it.
Awesome.
Absolutely. What was the motivation? Do you want to tell us a little bit about the motivation behind the book and kind of what got you? I mean, this is a daunting undertaking, so I find it hard to believe that just in one split second you decided you were going to take this endeavor up.
And for context, we release typically 20 to 30 podcast episodes a year, and maybe half of those are interview episodes. And the amount of coordination that has to go into setting those up, it's taxing, man. And these are high profile people you talk to.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of work. The backstory behind it, my buddy Scott Ryan, who published this book through his company, him and I were talking, and he's like, "When are you going to write a book?" I've been writing for magazines and websites and different outlets over the years. And he's like, "It's time to write a book, man." So I was sitting down thinking about it, like, what could my first book be about? It's got to be something that I really love. It's got to be something I'm really passionate about. I told my wife 3 ideas that I had, and she's like, "You seem to be the most interested in the Halloween idea." And she was right. Like, that was the one that I kind of had the spark in my eye when I was talking about it. And it was right when it was the week that Halloween Ends came out. So I told her, I was like, "All right, let's watch Ends." It came out on a Friday on Peacock. I was like, "Let's watch it Friday night. If I like this movie, I'm going to do this book. If I don't like it, I'm going to go with one of the other ideas." And Ends is an extremely controversial film, as you guys both know. I really liked it, and it got my creative gears turning. And the next day I called Scott Ryan and I was like, "Let's do this book, man." And it all just kind of came together after that.
Did you always plan on it being interview heavy, or was that just kind of
No, No, that's kind of the fun part of it. When I sat down and made the initial blueprint, I was thinking like maybe I need 10 interviews. And I was thinking like the interviews would be a very small part of the book. And I had all these research topics that I had in mind. And the very first interview that I conducted was with Stacey Nelkin from Halloween 3.
yeah.
And I had a blast talking to her. And I was just sitting down thinking afterwards like there's a lot to this. Like maybe I should try to do more than 10 interviews. So I started to kind of broaden my worldview a little bit. And I did another interview quickly after that. Dan Farrens was the second interview. And I was like, okay, this book should be their stories. And I kind of sat down and reshaped my ideas for what this book could be. And then it became, I want to try to get as many interviews as possible. And after that second interview, my whole plan of attack changed and the book started to take on this new shape. And a lot of those ideas that I wanted to do originally in this book, I didn't get to, and they're kind of still sitting there on a piece of paper, and maybe I'll revisit them in another shape or form down the road.
Yeah, man, it's so cool to hear different creators talk about how they'll get consumed by their work sometimes, and the work, they're almost like a passenger to the process of being creative. And as creators, I think Jamie and I both feel that not only in this endeavor. I mean, it's very similar to our format here. We did not plan to do interviews at all. And then we our first interview was what, Jay Bonansinga, who wrote
Yeah.
the Walking Dead books,
Yep.
and it was like, hey, that was a ton of fun. Like, should we do this? And then more and more kind of cropped up, and it's been such a cool integral part to our process. So we can really relate to that.
Sometimes the work tells you which direction you should go. And that's the
Yeah.
fun part for us as creators and as artists is just learning when to listen to our gut. And sometimes it's very loud and clear, like, hey, you need to take a left here.
Yeah.
Take a left.
Yeah. And so, in the format of how you allowed everything to unroll, I think is really, really neat. So you sort of bucketed things, which I really enjoyed. And speaking of which, so the lineage of what Andrew covers through this piece is the entirety of the Halloween franchises. He talks He talks timelines and all of the different iterations that exist. And we're actually going to wrap up this episode with Andrew ranking the Halloween films from we won't say least favorite.
You can have a least favorite.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
favorite being at the bottom, and then the ones that you don't like as much as the favorite. It's hard. It's like saying what kid you don't like sometimes, but
Mhm.
maybe Halloween Resurrection will be at the top of your list. I don't know. I just don't know. We'll find out here.
We'll find out.
It's a
But
kid born with like one crooked tooth.
yeah. Were you doing karate? What happened to your
What?
tooth?
Yeah.
So structure though of the way you outline the book, you kind of, some of it's chronological kind of at the onset, and you will cover sort of different eras, right? Like the Jamie Lee era, and then the 4 and 5 kind of era that kind of leaks then into the the Resurrection and H2O era. So I want to say it's on a timeline, but you kind of follow some of the timelines associated, and then you have a chapter on timelines too, which is super cool. So what was your approach to how you organized everything? Were you just collecting interviews and then after the fact you're like, all right, I'm going to piece it like this, or did you have a strategy at the onset?
Once I changed strategies and I realized the book was going to be more interview heavy, I just started doing as many interviews as possible. And I was like, I'll figure out the structure as I go, but I know interviews are the key to making this book unique. There's a lot of great Halloween books out there. The authors of the Taking Shape books, obviously, I interviewed them, and I was trying really hard to be different from them. And I have a ton of respect for Dustin and Travis, and I like to kind of give them their credit as many times as I can. Travis very early on reached out to me and he's like, "Hey, we always knew somebody else was going to do a Halloween book. You seem like a cool guy. Let me help you if I can." And it just kind of and it kind of just became this friendship where I could complain to somebody that understood what I was going through.
Yeah.
And and then I became friends with Dustin too, and the two of them just they understood and they kind of gave me some pointers along the way. But I really, out of respect for their work, wanted my book to be different. And they were very research heavy and they kind of avoided the actors and more in favor of like creating books about the scripts and the development of Halloween. So that helped guide me in coming up with my approach too. I can go after Danielle Harris and Ellie Cornell and Kathleen Kinmont and these other on-screen stars, and that's another way to make my book unique. So to get back to your question here, the structure was always evolving, but I started to see later on that doing it in these sections, these groups, these eras was going to be the best way to kind of be fair to everything and not have a gigantic chapter on Halloween 4 but then the chapter on resurrection be really tiny in comparison, kind of grouping them
Yeah.
in eras that it alleviated those kind of problems.
Yeah. Were there any, I guess, interviews? Like, what was your process to? I'm asking for a friend. I'm the friend. How'd you get some of these people to do this? Yeah, yeah. What was your engagement
Yeah,
process?
to expound upon that, what did you have? Was it just kind of did the groupings of people just kind of happen organically, or did you kind of sit down and say, here are the people that I want? I know you said you started with like 10 and kind of decided that it was gonna have to be a lot more. But did you have like a master list of actors and actresses that you wanted on the in the book, or did it just kind of fall into place?
I did make a master list, which basically had every name that you could possibly think of attached for the franchise. And I started kind of just moving it into smaller lists of realistic, unrealistic, as a fighting chance, kind of the different ways that I categorize them. And then I went kind of guerrilla warfare. Some of them I was talking to on social media, some of them their personal emails. Sometimes I was reaching out to publicists and managers, but it was just any which way that I could establish contact. And I
So you
like to
did
tell
all of
this
it though.
all of it.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's incredible.
Wow. And I'm
Yes, I
sure
mean,
after talking to one person, that was a great like, hey, I just talked to Tom Atkins. You're like, hey, you wouldn't mind connecting me with so and so, right? So I'm sure that probably started to happen a little bit.
yeah, it did. Dwight Little is a great example of that. When I talked to him, I had Ellie Cornell scheduled, but I hadn't talked to her yet. But I was just like, hey, Dwight, like, if you could help put me in contact with anybody else from your film, I'd really appreciate it. And he's like, let me know in a few months who else you've talked to from Halloween 4. And if you don't have any luck, I'll let you know. And I think 6 months went by and I emailed him back and I was like, hey, I've just talked to Ellie besides you from Halloween 4. Let me know if you can help.
That's
And
so cool.
2 minutes later, he sent an email with me CC'd on there to Danielle Harris and Alan McElroy. And he's like, hey, talk to Andrew. And we hit it off. When I talked to Dwight, we kind of established a little bit of a friendship. And that's my style as a journalist, is to not just dive into the questions. Like, let's build a little bit of a rapport here. Let's talk.
Sure.
Let's be friendly.
Yep.
Dwight's an Ohio guy. We had that in
Really?
common. Yeah, he's from the Cleveland area originally.
Damn.
So
Perfect.
yeah, that's what we started talking about. It was just like Midwestern living. And obviously the ages are a little bit different, but we were still able to connect over that geographically. And we hit it off, and he had written a book, and sometimes just being friendly to people is the best way to go.
Yeah, man.
Al-
I mean, of course.
yeah, Alan and Danielle both got back to me pretty quickly. I interviewed both of them shortly after that email. And when I'm on the phone with Danielle, like we're mid conversation, and Danielle's another example of just like striking up a friendship because she's got little kids and we're laughing about being parents. And she actually got a phone call from her youngest kid's school while we were doing the interview because he threw up at school.
Oh my
And
gosh.
she's like, give me 10 minutes to figure this out. And she's like calling her husband, like, can you go pick him up? But we were establishing this like friendship, and she mid-interview, she's like, do you want me to reach out to Scout? Have you talked to Scout? And I was like, no, I haven't. But if you don't mind, that would be awesome. And she literally texts Scout mid-interview. And Scout gets back to her right away, like, yeah, give him my number. And that was another interview set up. And there was a lot of like good fortune, or however you want to phrase that. I don't want to come across egotistical, but it was certainly
No.
good fortune.
Please, yeah.
No, man. I mean,
Please.
as we have done a comparable kind of thing, not as focused and not in the same storytelling format, of course, as what you did, and not nearly as impressive as what you did, but that's a lot of what we do. We had Corey Danziger from The Burbs. He plays Tom Hanks' son. And actually, oddly enough, he went to school with Danielle Harris, he said.
Well, yeah, and they were both in that Erie, Indiana.
Yeah,
episode.
they were. But he
Nice.
mid interview, like we hit it off, and even to this day, like the first time I watch The Burbs every year with my kids, I'll always text him. I'll be like, "Hey, man, first viewing, super nice guy." But he mid interview, he's
Awesome.
like, "You guys should have Joe Dante on," and we were like, "Yeah, we should." How do we? How does one do that, right? He's like, just reach out to his office, have Joe on. And I was like, we want Joe on. We'd love to have Joe on.
No doubt.
But it's cool how that starts to happen, right? Like you become friendly with people. And so I guess you kind of touched on a few, but were there any, I'm sure it got to and gets to a place at one point where you're like, hey, I'm doing this now. I've got 10 interviews under my belt. It's rolling. I got 4 more scheduled. But was there anyone that you secured to participate where you were like, holy hell, I cannot believe that this person agreed to do this with me?
I feel like everybody.
Yeah, I mean that's really applicable for a lot of them. When I first sat down and made that master list, I had John Carpenter, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Danielle Harris at the top, and I thought these are the 3. Yeah, obviously Loomis is dead, Donald Pleasance is dead, so those were the 3 that were like the top 3 of the franchise to me.
Oh, could you imagine if he was still alive?
I know, like, and
I would drive to his
Andrew, listen.
I mean, it wouldn't get any better,
Oh, man.
And same with Mustafa Akkad. He has passed away, so that left Carpenter, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Danielle Harris as the top 3, and they're the most identifiable with the franchise.
Sure.
So when I got Danielle, to me that felt like I've made it. Like, okay, like this book is now somewhat legitimate because I've got one of those top 3 people. So that was a really cool moment for me. And Scout was kind of similar in that sense because she was the star of 2 films and she played Laurie Strode in 2 films.
Yeah.
And I'm a defender of Rob Zombie's films. I know a lot of people aren't, but personally I am. And I think Scout knocked it out of the park in those 2 movies. And I really, really wanted Rob. That would have been a huge get. And I hope more than anybody that Rob reads the book, because I feel like part of the subliminal messaging in my book is the people who worked with him love him. And as much backlash as he got from fans and from the Weinsteins, there's a lot of people who really appreciate him. And maybe in some little way, my book could kind of like remind him of that. Scout was a big one for me. And I mean, Dwight was a big one. Dean Cundy, like that guy has literally worked
That was
on
one of my favorite
every
parts of the book. Yeah.
Yeah, he's worked
because he's the first interview in the book too, which is because here I come sauntering in, like, can't wait to read about stories happening on. And I have no idea why I came up with that conclusion, other than that's what I came up with. And then I was like, wait, oh, there's a prologue by Dean Cundy here. What's going on? And then I quickly got caught up with reality, but super impressive, man.
Yeah, I mean, starting with Dean was definitely deliberate because, again, he worked on the first three films, a huge factor in Hollywood in of itself. I mean, name a blockbuster movie from that era that he didn't work on.
Yeah.
You know, his
Yeah.
Or a
resume is,
Carpenter movie of that era he
yeah,
didn't work on, right? Like, I think it was
exactly.
what, The Fog,
Yeah, I
The
mean,
Thing,
his
Halloween. Yeah.
yeah, his resume is second to none for that era. I mean, the guy who literally worked on Jurassic Park, he's done everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, so that was a huge
Amazing.
get, and starting with him felt right. Yeah, so I mean, those are just a few examples to answer your question there, but I felt very fortunate with everybody. Dee Wallace was another one. Even though her role in the
Unreal.
Halloween franchise is small, she's still Dee friggin' Wallace. Like, she's the scream queen. You can't go wrong with Dee Wallace, and she's hysterical. I'll tell you my Dee Wallace story, and sorry to sidetrack here,
No,
Please.
please
but
do.
Yeah.
I got her phone number from her manager, and I called, and I was like, "Hello, this is Andrew Grevas calling for Dee Wallace," and her response was, "Hello, you sound sexy." And
Oh, wow.
it's on the phone, and I'm sure that I'm like bright red because this is ET's mom saying this to me. Fortunately, she could not see me blush, but
That's
that was
amazing,
my
though, man.
introduction to Dee Wallace.
Wow. One of my favorite things about this book is sort of the format and how we never really had a Camp Crystal Lake memories of the Halloween franchise, which is weird. But this book reads like that to me. It reads
Thank you.
like a retrospective. I can almost hear these people talking. You know what I mean? Like I almost was going to talk about, I was going to make a comment about your interview with Dean, and I was going to say when I heard him say, because it feels like I was listening to him as I was reading, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense. But my question here was going to be, did you get any juicy stories, any tidbits that you haven't heard? Which, again, because we don't have that Camp Crystal Lake memories, we haven't heard too many behind the scenes stories. So I'm sure you got all the good, juicy intel, all the good tidbits that we as average viewers haven't received. You get some good stuff?
I'll tell you a funny story. It kind of became an ongoing joke that people thought I knew more than I really did. So I would be on the phone with a insert cast member's name that I was interviewing, and they would say, "Hey, have you heard anything about this TV show? Like the rumored TV show that everybody's been talking about for the last 2 years?" And I'd be like, "I really don't know anything, but I know these three people have pitched ideas." And then they would start grilling me about the pitches. Like, "Well, what did you hear about this?" And it became a joke, like really just between myself, where I'm laughing. Everybody thinks that I know more about the development of new Halloween projects than I really do. And I told Dan,
Ironclad NDA. I can't say. Yeah.
I can't say anything, but I told Danielle that, and she started cracking up laughing. Like, she kind of became the person I confided in. And she's like, "Of course, everyone thinks you're working on a book about Halloween." She's like, "All of us in this bubble that have made these movies, like, we're going to look to you as the guy who's hearing the gossip." But it made sense when she said that to me. But
Yeah.
that was kind of a joke for a while. Like, people are like, "Yeah, I had this pitch to Malik." Everybody had a pitch to Malik. But some of them do come up in the book. Like, I think Alan and Dan Farron's pitches I did leave in their interviews. Some of them didn't make the cut. But that was definitely like one juicy thing, was everybody was very curious about where the franchise is going. A lot of the juicy stuff did make it. As far as like editing stuff out of interviews, I mostly edited out like emotional outbursts and angry things and
Yeah.
things that you might regret being in print, that kind of thing. So I
can
think
see that for sure.
most of the juicy stuff made it to print, though.
What would you say? I really enjoyed like looking through all of the different people you interviewed. I even made a list of the entire interview cast. I put stars next to three names, two of which I did not anticipate. One person's name I didn't even know, was not part of like my language. And then the other two I knew, one of whom I was like, seeing this person's name, I know I'm going to love it, which would be Tom Atkins, because it's like Uncle Tom, who doesn't want to hear from that man, and he's wonderful. But the other two interviews that I enjoyed most, I would say the one with Ellie Cornell, as a reader, that is, the one with Ellie Cornell, and then the one with Daniel Farrens. So I didn't know his story about being this like massive fan growing up. and then basically getting his dream job. But then also having to go through, that's like, I want to be the manager of the New York Yankees. And then you get in there, you're like, wait, I have to fire people? And I got to make these like heart, like hearing him express, like, I had these thoughts, I had these ideas, and we had a conflict of opinion when it came to what happened to certain characters and whatnot, like how Jamie's character was treated, right? The way he was like, that's not what I want. Like my version, that shouldn't, she's at the end. She doesn't go in the beginning. I thought that one was for me, one of the most surprisingly enjoyable tidbits of this whole thing.
Dan is the nicest guy in the world, and
He seemed like it just through the pages. It seemed that way.
yeah, he's made some pretty good films over the last few years. He had a film about Ted Bundy starring Chad Michael Murray that came out a few years ago. I cannot think of the name of it off the top of my head, but tremendously scary film. I really, really enjoyed it. The night that I interviewed him, we probably spent 30 or 45 minutes just talking about that movie that he directed. And, we started laughing. We're like, okay, we should probably get to the point here. But a few years ago, Dan kind of gave me my break. He was one of the first famous people that I interviewed when I was kind of getting into the website game. And I've never forgotten his kindness. And I never have forgotten the pep talk that he gave me that day. He's like, even the guys that started Bloody Disgusting started somewhere. He's like, keep at it. And he's like, keep at it.
That's
And
so
I
cool.
reminded him of that when I interviewed him for the book. I was like, you encourage me to keep doing this. And it's hard to break into this business, especially like when you don't have any kind of real backing and you're doing it all by yourself.
Yeah.
You guys understand that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man.
When you have no like giant corporation behind you and it's just you, it's daunting. So to have somebody like Dan Farron's like encourage me to keep it up,
And
it
it's
meant the
great.
world to me.
It's great to hear from somebody who's like one of us, right? Which is, you got into this for your love of it, because you talk to so many people that are either actors or writers or directors, and I'm not knocking it. It's work, right? But so many people are like, oh yeah, I haven't really even watched the movie. I'm not a fan of horror. Or yeah, horror is not my thing, or I don't like the franchise, or whatever it is. And then you hear it and you're like, that's so strange, because you've made such an impact on it. And it's not that you don't care about it, but it's like not an interest of yours. So every time I hear that, I'm always like, whoa, that blows my mind a little bit. But then you hear from this guy, which is the other side of the coin, which is like from day one. I think you mentioned in high school, my high school reunion, I went and everyone's like, what have you been up to? And I just wrote this script. And everyone's like, fuck, you would do that. That would be what you did. Like, yeah.
Not surprised.
That was such a cool thing to read.
It is. Like, Dan Farron's is the guy that if you win the Powerball this week and you become a billionaire and you buy the rights to the Halloween franchise, Dan's the guy that you put in charge of it because he cares that much. Like if I had all the money in the world and I bought it, like I'm giving Dan the keys to the kingdom and saying, make the movies you want to make, because he is one of us. He cares the same way that we do. And there's a part in his interview where he's talking about seeing Halloween 5 in theaters and walking out of the theater. And he says to his friend that he's with, like, I'm going to write Halloween 6.
Yeah.
And it took him a few years, but he did. He threw that into the universe. It is. I think the world of Dan, and everybody that he worked with did too. I think that really comes out in Marianne Hagen's interview, where she talks about how much she and Paul Rudd just relied on Dan Farron's. It's no secret that Curse of Michael Myers is a chaotic film behind the scenes and on screen too. And Dan really kind of kept everybody together. And that's no shade towards the director. I think the director was in a really tough position with the Weinsteins and everything else that's going on. But Dan Farron's like, he captained that ship and did a really, really good job at doing it. And he is kind of an unsung hero in this franchise.
You know who would be my pick for the Friday the 13th franchise in the same breath of what you just described would be
I was thinking the exact
Vincent
same
DeSantis.
Oh, I wasn't going to say
who
that.
were you going to say?
Wait, who are you going to say?
I was going to say...
You?
No. What?
I will be the next the next Jason Voorhees.
No, the name's escaping me. Part 3.
Larry Zerner?
No.
Richard Brooker?
No, part 2. I'm sorry.
Part 2.
Oh, Russell Todd?
No.
Oh, Steve Miner.
Steve Miner.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go.
He also
Steve
did
Miner.
Halloween
Too many
H2O.
names floating
Yeah,
around
yep.
here. My head is scrambled.
We're just making them up
Steve
now.
Miner to me would be but Vincent DeSantis is even better. Yeah.
Yeah, because Steve got a chance to do
I
something.
think, and I think that he may be done with that, but Vincent,
I also love Steve
it's
Miner, the
like,
end of the earth.
yeah.
So, Steve, we know you're listening. I will get back to your emails at some point. I've been very busy, but yes, you can be on the podcast. Absolutely, sir.
Steve, I wanted you for the book. It didn't happen.
It
I
wasn't the right
tried.
franchise, Steve.
I tried.
Oh man. So let's talk. Let's shift gears a little bit here. Your first experience with Halloween. What was the first one you
Oh,
saw?
yeah.
How old were you?
It was the original film, and I was probably 7 or 8. I wrote about it in the acknowledgments. My cousin Jeff, who passed away in 2020, he was the one that I watched Halloween with for the first time. We were in his basement, and it was a VHS tape, and we popped it in, and we knew we should not be watching it, but we did anyway. And it's that classic kid story of discovering horror on a VHS that you know you're not supposed to be watching, scares the living shit out of you, and that's all you can think about afterwards. And I really wish my cousin were still here to like experience this, because like we bonded over not just Halloween but Friday the 13th. That was our other franchise.
Yeah.
Distinctly remember watching part 5 with him more times than any kid really should watch the 5th Friday the 13th, but for some
Yeah.
reason we both just loved it, and it was probably for Deb Voorhees related reasons. But you're little boys, let's just be honest. But I still love A New Beginning to this day. And I love Deb Voorhees, and I'm proud to call her a friend.
That's
Man,
awesome.
man, that's incredible.
Yeah, that's my Halloween origin story, though. And I've really just been addicted to horror since about the age of 7 or 8.
What was your first one again, Jamie?
Fuck, I don't know. Like the first one I remember always growing up around them, but not being allowed to watch them. So I
Yeah.
think it was probably parts and bits and pieces, but I remember
Yeah.
so distinctly kids at school talking about part 5.
Yeah,
And
because that was
the
like
party
movie
at
theater
Tower
going
Farm.
age. Yeah.
Yeah. And just thinking like, "Man, I wish I could watch that shit."
Yeah. My first, oddly enough, maybe that's why I resonated so much with the interview with Dan, but the first one I remember truly sitting and watching was Curse of Michael Myers. Because I was born in '87, right? So that would have hit in the perfect time around, when I was similar age to what you just described here, Andrew. So just we watched that in The Burbs one night. It was a little double feature, and The Burbs is probably my favorite movie of all time, one of my favorite movies of all time. And I just remember I have so much affection for that movie, and it's not the best one in the franchise. We get a lot of juicy tidbits in your book here about sort of the conflict that was going on behind the scenes in terms of direction and story, and you get handed this thing which was like, hey, we put some ambiguous characters and stuff in 5. Good luck.
Best
Here's
of
a
luck.
half-baked cake.
Yeah, good luck.
But don't put heat on it, but bake it the rest of the way. You're like, well, how the hell am I supposed to do that?
Don't focus too much on the ending, which they did.
No frosting.
No frosting.
You guys, what is your preferred part 6? Producer's cut or I think I'm theatrical.
I am too, and it's simply because, like, if the producer's cut for me had the treatment of a theatrical cut,
Yeah.
but because it's a producer's cut, it's like most people won't see this anyway. Let's just, I just feel like there's not as much production to it, even though it's called the producer's cut.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
honestly, it's such a small detail, but missing that fucking 90s rock song. The scene when they start walking through campus, like right after the
Oh.
angry kitchen scene, and they're walking through campus. He's like, "Well, I think it's cool."
I think it's cool. Yeah.
That song that's playing leading up to that not being in the producer's cut makes such a goddamn difference, honestly, for me.
And the wailing guitar.
Yeah.
Wow. No, when she's like
Dun,
going
dun.
through.
Oh yeah, that.
What about you, Andrew?
I'll also go theatrical. I mean, the producer's cut was like this thing that we all wanted for so long. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, I've heard rumors of this producer's cut, and I'm glad that it exists. Don't
Totally.
get me wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, none of them are Dan Farron's vision. None of
Yeah.
them are as good as the script. The script is the best version of that film, and it's a shame that we never got that.
I've heard there's a cut. This is not in this franchise, but tangentially is related, of the movie Cursed that Wes Craven did. I heard that there's like
Craven cut. Yeah, the
like
Craven
supposed
cut,
to be
they
a
call
really
it.
badass Craven cut somewhere. I don't know if it's usable or not, but I've heard that for years.
I heard they got burned up in a warehouse fire.
That's what anytime Waxworks releases a record, they're like, "We found this under a musty pile of old clothes," and I'm every time I'm there for it, I'm like, I don't even care if this is not true. Like, tell me you went down into the archives. Like those dudes do such an amazing job.
Yeah.
I love everything they do.
Did you get
Yes.
any details about the producer's cut and kind of what fueled the release of that, or anything behind it?
Yeah, I mean, Dan did talk about it a little bit in the interview, and it was just, I don't think even he knew like why, but just it was more like, hey, this is happening. And, to his point, he had been asked about it for years, and he was just happy that he could quit fielding questions about it at conventions, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know why it finally did, but I think there was a lot of public pressure for a long time.
Now, I'd have to assume you maybe tried, or maybe you got nervous because he's a mega star. But Paul Rudd, any?
I did try. I'll just go ahead and throw Mr. Rudd's business out there. I never got a response from his team. I tried. I did try, but his team never got back to me.
Yeah.
That's the game you play. For every 100 emails you send, you're going to get 2 responses, and you just keep trying.
Also, he could be the biggest star currently from that franchise.
I would venture to say so.
Outside of Jamie Lee.
I was gonna say outside of Jamie
Yeah.
Lee
Outside
Curtis,
of
I think,
Jamie Lee,
yeah.
he very well could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is a hot commodity in the industry, and I assumed that there was a 0% chance I would get him, but I had to say that I tried.
Dude, I respect the hustle.
Yeah, dude, and you got that potential second book's worth of content available too. So plenty of time to get Paul in. And if you need,
Yeah.
2 mediocre podcasters that are also live in Ohio to contribute, you have us. So
I dig it. And maybe we can get Mr. Zombie too.
yeah,
Maybe.
Rob, I've been meaning to get back with you as well, Rob.
Once you get established with that first book, I would imagine it would make it easier. Send
sure.
them a copy along with a request.
Dude, yes.
So I'll tell you guys a funny story. Dan Roebuck, who I interviewed, obviously, I told him that my youngest son, Jack, once called Rob Zombie Bob Zombie, and I thought it was the funniest thing ever. So it's like this joke in our house. He's Bob Zombie. And I told Dan that, and he got really serious. And obviously he's like the funniest person in the world, but he gets super serious, and he's like, his friends do call him Bob. And we were both really awkwardly silent, and then he just started laughing to like let me know that he was messing with me. But he was like, his friends do call him Bob.
And he played, what was it, Big Lou?
Big Lou, yeah. Big Lou Martini.
In the Rob Zombie films, for sure. As you were going through the process of like collecting these stories, all right, so it starts to take shape. I'm sure you're like, cool, I got a couple people from Halloween 3, I have a couple people from 2.
Take shape. Was that a pun?
It wasn't, but now that you've said it, it definitely was very intentional. Definitely not smart, except I'm not. So, but as it started to kind of take shape and you're starting to collect these stories and whatnot, did you start to get a sense of any kind of like common thread? Because there was clearly difference of opinion on where to take the franchise, right? We try and do a pattern interrupt with Halloween 3. We bring it back with 4, but even from 4 to 5, got a completely different style. 6 comes in, hey, what the hell do I do with what I was just handed? So you talked to a lot of different people that interacted with the process a lot of different ways, but was there any kind of common thread that you felt was consistently present amongst these conversations?
I think Mustafa Akkad, prior to him passing away, gave a lot of freedom to the individual teams. Like each film's writer and director, he kind of gave them a wide berth. Like, let's see what you can come up with. Here's a couple ground rules, but let's see what you got. I think his son might be a little bit more hands-on. Just some of the off-the-record stories I heard gave me the impression that you have to win Malik over a little bit more than his dad, perhaps. And that's not a bad thing. I think that if we look at Halloween's 4, 5, and 6, there's a lot of continuity issues there that could have been prevented had the powers that be stepped in a little bit more and said, no, don't do that ending, because how are we going to pay that off in the next film, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't begrudge Malik for being a little bit more hands-on and a little bit quicker to say no because I think it's good for the overall product in a way. Not throwing any
Yeah.
shade at his father. I think everybody loved Mustafa. I never heard a bad word about Mustafa the whole time I was working on this book. That was really impressive to me. You would expect somebody to have something bad to say about him being in charge the whole time. Everybody that I talked to had nothing but love and admiration for him. That's pretty remarkable just on a human level that
Yeah.
that many
Yeah.
people appreciate you as a boss.
Yeah, and
Think
I
that
think
answered your question.
it does for sure. And to your point about Malik too, I think that there's a level of like his responsibility for this looks different probably
Hmm.
than his dad's did even now too, because you're the lore and the thisness of this now. It's like it's the world's now, right? And everyone has this fierce, aggressive, intense opinion. Not everyone, but most that care about it the way that we do. People have opinion. Like, look what happened with Halloween Ends. Like that was a very polarizing, as you mentioned, production that occurred. And I think there's just so many more things that you have to weigh and represent now sitting in that seat than maybe you did even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So jobs, I think, harder, you know,
Definitely.
because of that.
And there's all these additional like branding opportunities too, because now it's video games and merchandising and books and everything else that you can do. Like this franchise is its own world.
Really
It's a
is.
little bit yeah, it's a little bit different than just making a movie once every year or two. Like there's all these other things that exist and I very much get the impression that they want to create a situation where there is a TV show that is similar to Season of the Witch where you've got anthology stories on the small screen and Michael Myers films are reserved for the big screen. That to me sounds like best case scenario. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people out there that wanted Season of the Witch to continue. Now you can do
Sure.
that in TV. Do that in a TV show and save Michael Myers for the theaters.
Have you seen Body Bags, the anthology film? Yeah, so that I think that's a great instance of obviously it's not. Well, actually,
Just the first episode or the first segment.
that's the only one John Carpenter directed, but it does take place.
But
Remember,
that's the one
she's
that
like,
takes place in Haddonfield.
yeah, how far is that? Yeah, Haddonfield. I love that. Also, that movie's great.
It is.
That movie is great. I love it.
I love that. Yeah.
So, was there anything that surfaced that made you change your opinion for better or for worse? Because I'm sure your list that you're going to cover when we wrap of like your
The
least favorite to
ranking?
favorite,
Yeah.
yeah, your ranking. I'm sure that, and maybe it didn't, but it probably looked different before you did this project, and now after you probably look at things with a little bit of different light. So, was there any light that was redirected through this effort for you?
Yeah, I mean, there were several films that my opinions changed. I was more critical of H2O at the beginning of this journey than I was at the end. I really gained an appreciation for how tight H2O is. Like, that film is like a little freight train that just like boom, 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 boom. It's relentless. When I first started writing this book, I was like, it's fine. It's just kind of towards the end of my rankings. I'm mad that they changed the timelines, and I know people like it, but I gained this appreciation for it. And I will give Patrick Lussier a lot of credit for that. My conversation with him, like, I don't know, that changed my mind and made me think about that film differently. He was the last interview that I did for the book too. It
Cool.
was it was right after New Year's this year. I think it was like January 2nd or January 3rd, and he made some time for me, and then I submitted the book Valentine's Day. So I
Hmm.
basically caught him right at the end of time. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is the other big one where my opinion changed. I did not like that film at all when I first started working on this book. I was one of those people like it's the worst movie in the franchise, but I
We held that
kept
opinion too, and it is very Halloween ish. Like it feels like the season big time in that movie.
it does.
They crushed that setting part.
I watched the film 4 nights in a row
Damn.
and I was trying to like break this like mental block that I had towards it. And you got to think like this is probably a year into writing this book and my process was like I've obviously got a day job during the day, so like it's like work, family stuff, hang out with everybody around the house for a little bit. I start working at 9, 10 o'clock at night,
Mm,
and I'm up all night writing this book, and it's a very
Yeah.
tiring process, and it's a lonely process because like the rest of my family's sleeping and most of the regular world is sleeping, and I'm up doing this every single night, and I just had this aversion to Rob's Halloween 2, and I didn't know why. And I was like, I have to like wrap my head around this film. So I sat down and I watched it 4 nights in a row, taking notes on it. It was before I talked to Scout, so probably about a year into working on the book. And that last night, like it just clicked with me what he was doing. I was like, this was elevated horror before that was even
hmm.
a term.
Did you
Like
have thinking of that anecdote that you just shared, did you have a preparation process? Did you make an effort to make sure you watched each film prior to interviewing folks that were associated with those films?
I did. Prior to interviewing them or like writing the chapters that kind of came before the interviews, like whatever came first. Like I wasn't gonna watch Resurrection 7 times, like to like account for like all the interviews and the writing, but I did make sure that I watched all of the films in the franchise at least twice during the process. I think Halloween Kills was probably the only film that I watched twice. Everything else I at least watched 3 times.
Is that because Kills is your least favorite?
It's pretty low on the list, but
Yeah,
I
it should
also
be.
We're gonna find out.
yeah. I also felt like I had a pretty good handle on that one.
Yeah.
And it's actually the only film that I did not have a specific interview for.
Oh, wow. Just real quick, not to keep going backwards, but what changed my mind on Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, was that director's cut.
Yes.
That made me appreciate just the movie in general a lot more. That director's cut, that's in in contrast to the producer's cut of Part 6, the director's cut of Zombie 2 is fucking far superior in my opinion.
I agree. And that's basically the only version that people see now. Like the director's cut is the film now, which I appreciate.
As it should be.
I can't remember. There was a lot of intensity there, right? The lore is that that's the case because the
Mhm.
Weinsteins,
Yep.
he didn't want to do it, right? And then they were like, "No,
Yeah.
you must," kind of thing.
Yeah, and then they micromanaged him. Danielle and Scout both gave me a lot of really good stories about that. I think Danielle's story about how unorganized things were, like they flew her in to Atlanta for filming. She gets off the plane in the car and they're like, "Hey, why are you here?" And she's like, "Hey, you guys just told me to fly to Atlanta to work. No, we don't need you. Go home." Things like that, like
Uh,
illustrate how frazzled not just Rob, but the entire crew were. Yet they still made this film that has pretty big impact. It's definitely a chaotic set, and there's a lot going on there. Everybody was unhappy for many reasons, but at the end, the finished product's pretty remarkable when you consider all the chaos.
Now Danielle had to be incredible because she has 2 totally different eras that she
Yeah.
experienced. Hearing her stories of both and the contrast between those had to be incredibly interesting.
It was definitely one of my favorite like experiences as
Yeah.
far as just like me remembering working on the book. That conversation certainly high on my list.
Yeah, had to be.
Did you guys get a chance to talk about other stuff she's done too? Because she was in what, Hatchet 2? Was it the second
We
one?
didn't
Yeah, second one.
specifically talk about Hatchet. We talked about some of her work like from when she was
She
a
may not
kid.
she may not want
I
to.
just use that as an example. I don't know why I
Yeah.
picked that one. She's been in a lot of stuff in this space.
Yeah, I mean, she really has. But like, I remember a lot of like her like Free Willy and stuff like that coming up. Her child actress work. Yeah,
Jesus.
Dude, I really forgot she was in that.
yeah.
Also,
I
that
actually,
episode of Erie, Indiana, we were talking about is intensely sad. It's like really, really sad.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say though, Andrew? I'm sorry.
oh, totally lost my train of thought. So we're all good there.
That's what I do. I just barrel my way through
So
conversation.
did you notice a big difference in the actors who approached, so like the actors who came in, let's say in the first 3 or 4 films, right? Even 3 through 5 maybe. And the contrast between actors coming into sort of a budding unknown franchise, like is this going to keep going? Is it going to continue? What's going to happen? Like 4 and 5 are kind of naturally like continuations of each other, as is 1 and 2. But the actors who came in later, part 6, 2O, stuff like that, the different approach, because they're coming in almost as fans or people who know this franchise, whereas the other actors were kind of coming in, is this what's the longevity here?
I think there's this shocking trend of every era having the exact same mindset of we're trying to live up to the 1978 film.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah.
I was really surprised by that because if you would have asked me ahead of time, I would have thought like, oh, there's fans coming in, there's people like with preconceived notions coming in, but that really was a noticeable trend where everybody wanted to live up to 1978's film. And it was like this competition. We're going to be the best sequel. That comes up several times, but that mindset was like on everybody's brain.
That's a mindset I don't really like. Like, why are you
Interesting.
trying to top
Well, yeah.
to
I
me,
mean,
why are you trying to try to be your own movie instead of trying to top something that's pretty much untouchable, you know?
well, don't piss off like 14 people at once here,
No, I'm
Jamie.
not. I'm just saying that to me, it seems like why not come in and try to make the best version of a sequel that you can make instead of trying to compete with something that's untouchable.
Well, I think they were like they were trying to like be like the best film since 1978 is probably
Yeah,
a
be
better way
like
to.
to do
Yeah,
it justice kind of
I
thing.
got you.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
we're gonna be the best sequel. Like to
Well, I guess we're gonna find out what you think the best sequel is here in a little bit.
all right.
Before we do that, though, just a couple more questions about your process. So, what was the hardest part about this? So, beyond the schedule
So
you
many,
just described,
so
like
many things.
we live that too. I hear you on that. The late nights, it is incredibly lonely. Editing video and audio of yourself speaking alone in your basement is basically the most depressing thing you can do.
Yeah.
So we feel you on that, but beyond that, what was the hardest part about this? Were like NDAs or paperwork, or you trying to cover bases to make sure you don't get sued? Like anything on that front, production wise?
And there was a lot of people that told me, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, don't do this.
Yeah.
And I'm super grateful for that. The Taking Shape guys were very helpful with that. A lot of people who were interviewed for the book that probably would prefer I don't use their names told me like the do's and don'ts of this franchise. Like, hey, these are the things that piss off the powers that be. Don't do that.
That's really interesting.
Super helpful.
Yeah, so I very much appreciated that. I think the hardest part though was like self-conceived pressure, like trying to live up to there's so many great documentaries out there and so many great books and those late nights of wondering how am I going to compare? Am I adding anything new to the conversation when there's already a lot of great people contributing to it? I think that I did, and I'm proud of it, kind of taking a step back. And I finished work right around Valentine's Day of this year. So 7 months ago. And like, so if I'm taking like the 7th month step back, like I'm proud of what I did. But over the 2 years of working, I would be lying to you if I didn't acknowledge how neurotic I was. Like,
Yeah.
is this good? Am I wasting my time? Are people gonna hate it and be like, well, what? Just buy these other books instead? And that was definitely like the battle that I fought on a daily basis.
I mean, to me, this is an incredible companion piece with
Yeah.
Taking Shape 1 and 2, right? Like it stands on its own for sure. As you said, that was the attempt. I think it was achieved.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And as people that are all consumed by all things horror all the time, it is difficult to find a property that has the popularity and is legitimately a pillar of the foundation of all of this, right? And the argument has been made over and over again that this, slashers wouldn't exist if it weren't for Michael Myers, or slashers as we came to know them. And I'm not necessarily saying that, but that opinion is out there big time. And it gets hard as a creator or as someone consuming creative content to find stuff that has any form of originality to it. To your point, like, hey, has this been done? Is this different enough? Like, is this interesting enough
Mm.
and different enough both? Or I can make it more interesting, but it's not going to be as different, like those dials are so hard to get right. But I think you crushed this, man. Like I truly enjoyed this entire book, and I'll read it again as soon as I can get a copy on October 7th.
I really appreciate you saying that. That was the goal. And when I started to like kind of see the book as a whole, like when there was enough of it that was done to where I could kind of get an idea of what it looked like, I was proud of the fact that there was a lot of variety. And what I mean by variety is like there's some interviews that are emotional. I think Scout and Danielle are both emotional interviews. And then there's interviews that are like very tech and very like almost like a DVD extras, like on a box set, behind the scene commentary.
Sure.
Chris Durand and Brad Loree, like the way they're describing their stunts being performed, like that was like film school knowledge. And there's gossipy stuff and there's drama, but there's like a little bit of everything. And every interview had its own identity. And if anything, that's probably what I'm most proud of is it became this like three-ring circus of Halloween where there was a little bit of everything in there.
Yeah, and I think that was one of my
Yeah.
favorite things about the book is kind of how there was a personality to each actor. It wasn't the same questions, it wasn't the same answers. It wasn't a different answer for the same question for each person. That's what I loved. And to your point, I loved getting a tech related or behind the scenes sort of, cinematography, the camera work, all the technical aspects. And then you have the people that are doing as you said, the emotional aspects of the role or just as being an actor in these films, which dude, the mix and the eclecticness of the interviews is really what made it.
Yeah. I totally agree, man. And I until you articulated that, I didn't even realize I was enjoying that
Yeah,
about
yeah.
this. But
Same.
but as you say that, yeah, like your interview with Dominique was he was there to talk about the work, like the project, right? Halloween 5, like, hey, this was my approach. Like he basically it was almost like a storyboard of like this was my process, and it was very kind of like surgically, which is interesting because his movie took so many like artistic liberties,
Yes.
and it seems like his approach was very kind of like he probably had color coded binders about like each shot. That's what it felt like in the way he talked about it and described it, at least.
Yeah, that was another question I actually had was, did you notice some of the people you talking like the Halloween 4 guys, have they noticed an uptick in popularity of their film kind of as streaming becomes like as that movie has become more streamable, have they noticed an uptick sort of in popularity?
I think it was Dwight himself that mentioned that at first they did not feel like it was as popular as it is today,
Yeah,
but
I don't think it was. Yeah.
he's really proud of like how it stood the test of time and grown more popular over the years. I'm pretty sure it was Dwight that told that to me, but I do recall that coming up.
That would make a lot of sense. But as you, if you're not if you're not a huge horror fan who collects physical media, especially nowadays, you get the younger kids, they're kind of watching
Younger
what they
kids.
can get. Like someone 20, right, who didn't grow up with the franchise
Yeah.
and they want to watch Halloween 4. If that's not streaming, what, what are they going to do? Buy it
Hmm.
on Amazon? No,
But in the same breath, too, you're at the swim club and you hear like this 10-year-old kid talking about X Files, and you're like, get
well,
over here.
well,
What do
that,
you know about the X
yeah,
Files? Tell me
that's on
everything you know, right?
Tell me what you know.
Yeah. But that
Is the truth out there?
is it or isn't
tell
it?
me.
Um, but yeah, I'm seeing that with music too. Like
Yeah,
this generation like loves Deftones. And I'm like,
sure.
Nice.
yeah, they're still making music, of course, but it's also like, what
Mhm.
do you know about White Pony? That came out when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You almost feel like but that's what this door has been unlocked from this, which is why I think again in 30 years or maybe it's 15 years,
Hmm.
I'm going to be really interested to see. Maybe opinions don't change, maybe they do dramatically, and I'm pumped to see what happens between now and then, I guess, with this franchise. So
My bold prediction on that is that opinions on Halloween Ends will change as soon as there is a new film. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
look at Rob Zombie. The people who were bashing his 2009 film are a lot easier on it now because now they can bash the Blumhouse films. And there's always that segment of the audience that just needs to trash on something. That's just the world that we live in.
Yeah.
Give them a new film that doesn't live up to their standards, and all of a sudden Halloween Ends is going to bump up their rankings a little bit. And there's going to be other fans that ease up on it just over the years because they start to appreciate new things about it. But that vocal minority that's always complaining about something online. Once there's a new film, they're gonna be like, all of a sudden, like Halloween Ends really is like Season of the Witch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
All right. So, question for the fans here. So, what do you hope the most diehard of Halloween fans takes from reading your book?
An appreciation for films that they did not appreciate before. Finding something about resurrection in the interviews that maybe they dig, or maybe it's Halloween Ends or the Rob Zombie films. But that's like my biggest goal, is for the diehard fans to like look at a film that they don't like differently as a result of something they read here.
Yeah. I mean, if I didn't have the upbringing story of renting The Burbs and Curse of Michael Myers on the same night, I probably would have there's an element of, I don't want, nepotism is not the right word, but like I give that movie more grace than someone that didn't have that experience would, because I had that experience, right? And even as a person that looks at that movie in a very favorable light, I look at it even more favorably now after reading some of these interviews to see and to hear. And the same thing, I'm looking at the book right there, Reflections. It's an oral history on Twin Peaks. Have
Oh,
you read
yeah.
that, Andrew?
That's my buddy Brad Dukes.
Okay. Love, one of my favorite books. Twin Peaks is my second favorite show of all time.
I bought you that book, didn't
I think you did
Yeah.
for Christmas one year.
Yeah.
I remember being on a plane flying to Chicago. I was like getting close to the end, and I was like thinking I might just wait on here till this takes off and goes to the next place because I want to finish this book. But that story told so much about the politics of creating that show and not having the prime spot versus having the prime spot versus, hey, I gave pushback. Now politically I'm being, now someone's taking a swing back at me. And seeing stuff like that in here is interesting, not to like poke into the nitty gritty and like get up in people's shit, but it's also really cool to hear like, there were external influences beyond. It's not as easy as like make a cake with these ingredients. It's like, great, you're mixing it, and then someone's like, actually we have to take all the flour out of that. You're like, oh well, it's already in there. Well, get it out, figure it out, don't care, flour's got to come out.
I immediately thought of Halloween H2O as you were saying that, and Chris Duran talking about refilming all the scenes because of the mask changes.
Yeah.
I don't know. To your point about the continuity of that film and the pace, and I think you mentioned Jurassic Park earlier too. I think Jurassic Park is the perfect film. It's the clinic in pacing and in storytelling continuity. It moves, and it does not. No emotional integrity is jeopardized by how quickly it moves. So they find a way to move it and also preserve all of that. So it's an incredibly done film. And I think Halloween H2O had a similar kind of success in they moved the shit out of that story. Jamie, I see you smirking over there. I don't think Halloween H2O is as good as Jurassic Park, though I do love Halloween H2O. I love the shit out of it.
I mean, if you asked me to watch one of the two, it would be H2O.
Yeah.
But I love Jurassic Park. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But comparing the two is silly.
I know.
To the average, not to me.
Dean Cundy.
Yeah. But to the average person, yeah, I see your point there.
All right. So, Andrew, where can people find your book? Again, release date, drop, any notes, anything you want to plug about availability, book signings, anything you got going?
Amazon's the easiest way to get it. You can get it straight from the publisher's website. That is Tucker with a T, dspress.com. I know it's going to be in some bookstores come October 7th. I don't want to say any specific names because, that's kind of up in the air, but I've been told like Barnes and Noble and places like that are going to have it. But Amazon and Tucker DS Press is definitely like a surefire way to get it. Book signings, one in my hometown of Norwood, Ohio on October 8th coming up. It's right outside of Cincinnati. So if you're in the Cincinnati area, it's close, about 10 minutes from Northern Kentucky too. That's Wednesday, October 8th. And then some other cool stuff is coming up as well. You can find me and the book on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Facebook, either at Andrew Grevas or at Horan Haddonfield. All three platforms have both accounts.
All right.
Awesome, man. Well, you did the undoable, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You did something, just an amazing achievement. And it's not just a compilation of interviews, the cohesiveness, your writing, like that intro, the forward, like, dude, incredible. Like the way that you talked about sort of how he's the Shape and Michael Myers, how he can be both and he is both. I really enjoyed that insight, and I knew right away that I was going to love the book just from that sort of intro.
That means the world to me. I really appreciate it when people who know this genre inside and out and people who love this genre as much as me say things like that to me. Doesn't get any better than that.
Well, you did it, man. I agree with everything Jamie said. Now, you want to hit the fun part and do your
Yeah.
ranking?
Yeah.
All right. I am pulling up my letterbox account now.
Okay, so we're gonna do how many total films here? So we're including the zombie films,
13?
Yep. So
and
13 total.
13 total. Okay, and so that includes the Rob Zombie films. That includes the most recent trilogy, Blumhouse trilogy that we got. And let's start with your least favorite. And we know you're not throwing shade at any of these movies, but if you had to put them in an order, that's what we're putting you in the impossible position of doing. So,
Number 13 comes Halloween Resurrection.
man,
With all due apologies to Busta Rhymes.
was he on your list, by the way?
I tried. I really wanted Busta for this book, and it didn't happen.
I cannot
That is a
express
bummer.
how eagerly I was reading it
Thumbing
on my
through the
iPad, and I was like, I got to look ahead and see if he's in here.
I did really, really try.
I will say this: we have a very dear friend who's a great photographer, and he does a ton of work with a lot of really famous artists and a ton of like really great music video work. And he did a project with Busta Rhymes, and he said he was one of the nicest celebrities he ever worked with. So, for what that's worth.
Brad Loree also spoke super highly of him. I think most of those stories did make the book, but he was all about Busta.
The other person he said was Charles Barkley, oddly enough.
Nice.
Yeah. So Halloween Resurrection, though, I guess for you guys, Jamie and I think we just did this last year on another podcast, our friends, and I think this was probably number 13 for both of us.
If it wasn't, it was right in front of the zombies.
Yeah, I think maybe Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, to your point, Andrew, might have been at this spot for us. But yeah, dude, this is my favorite film of the franchise to start the season with because I don't like to start watching them too early in the year.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a good one because it's not, I care about all of these movies in one way or another. I like them a different amount in one way or another. But this is one that to me is like, oh, I'm not ruining any tradition of mine by watching this
Yeah.
in mid-September.
Usually,
I dig it. Number 12. We've already referenced this one, but Halloween Kills.
This was,
it's just not a very good movie.
I feel like, Jamie, you liked this a good deal when we left. And then every year, I think it falls another rung down the ladder for you.
When we left, I was like fist pumping, except for although you and I both, I get theater drunk, and I don't mean drunk at the theater, which I have done, but I mean, I just get drunk with joy from leaving the theater after a movie. It can suck, but I like it. It gets like 2 extra points than it should typically. And that's what happened with Kills. Even though I acknowledged all the downfalls as we were leaving, I still loved the experience. It was maybe our first movie post COVID that we went and saw in the theater together. So it had all that charm. And then when you sit down by yourself and all the charm is gone, stripped butt naked, that movie just sucks.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to be nice here, but I'll say that it works better when you think of it as part of a trilogy rather than a standalone film.
Sure.
That's the nicest thing I can say.
Yeah, and this is, I guess, you said this is the only film you didn't have an interview from, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It wasn't for lack of trying, but it was the only one.
Yeah.
It was lack of interest of anyone talking about it.
I guess you have you have the most liberty to say what's on your mind about this one, I guess, since you don't have any
no emotional ties.
Yeah. All right, so Halloween Resurrection, Halloween Kills, number 11 for you, man.
Halloween 5.
Ooh.
Halloween 5.
This is the first one where I'm like, what?
Oh, on his list?
Right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, because there's still some other stuff that,
Yes.
yeah.
Also, we both like 5.
I like 5 because of growing up with AMC Fear Fest. 4 and 5 to me were one movie.
Well, regardless of the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like it. It doesn't mean it's a good movie.
But if I looked at these on their own later in life, this is one it's not right next to 4.
No.
Like I still like
Yeah.
4 way more than this.
Yeah.
Despite liking this because it's an extension of a movie that I love.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's that kind of
I hate
difficult
how
thing to
one
juggle.
of the biggest issues of 5, not to derail your list here, but
Let us talk about your list.
Ellie Cornell, her dying so soon in 5 just bums me out. I just wish she could have. I would have loved to seen her party in Tower Farm, and
Yeah. There are things that I like about 5. Definitely some things that I don't like about it. It's not a bad film by any means, but when I sat down a few months ago and made what I consider to be a solid ranking, but it's definitely controversial, I knew Halloween 5 was going to be towards the bottom for me.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I Your description too of like I always realized it but never formally articulated and said it in that way. But the general feel of these two movies, one is lighter, tighter story. It's that Halloween 4 crew that you're
Yeah.
talking about, right?
Mhm.
Whereas this one had this like macabre, like dense sort of like heaviness to it, right? Where the other one
Yeah.
didn't have that. And I didn't realize that was a factor in what made me pull away from it. But that is absolutely a factor of what makes me pull away from it.
Makes sense.
They are tonally very, very different films.
Yeah.
And I've just convinced myself after all these years that they were played on Fear Fest 4 and 5 back to back, so it has to be tonally the exact same.
Yeah, and you because they're both in the same location, you would think same filmmakers, same crew.
Yeah.
No, it's not, and that's why they're totally different movies. Yeah, makes sense.
All right, so we got Halloween Resurrection, Halloween Kills, Halloween 5, on to number 10.
Rob Zombie's Halloween 1.
Whoa, so 2 is above 1.
It is.
All right.
So Patrick Lussier and I talked about this in the book. I will use his quote where he talks about how Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 is like a Netflix documentary. And I see that. It really is like a Netflix documentary. It's a lot of backstory, and it's not a bad film by any means. But 2 is the creative film. 2 is where he takes the handcuffs off and he does something imaginative. 1, I liked more at the time, but over the years, I've come to realize that it's like half Rob's own story, half faithful shot by shot remake of what Carpenter did. And it's just kind of fine. Like it's not a bad movie. There are redeeming qualities to it, but it's certainly on the lower end of my rankings.
Yeah, I think the part of this movie that I do not enjoy versus what I do enjoy, I enjoy the like once it gets to the remake portion, quite honestly. Like once we have access
Yeah.
to the friend group, right? That's really important, I
Mhm.
think, to both Jamie and I, is having characters that you can relate to, that you care about, and
And that whole intro, like, what the fuck?
yeah, and I think that's I don't know where you stand on Rob Zombie films in general, Andrew, but that's a difficult, and it's by design, right? He doesn't let you get too close to anyone, and
Mhm.
even like you revere this Firefly clan in in that trilogy,
But you're never comfortable with.
but you never,
Yeah.
right? It's like your best friend's one of the guys from Dusk Till Dawn. It's like, no, those should not be your best friends. You should avoid those people, right? So he does that. He creates an imbalance of what traditional storytelling, you feel traditional storytelling should be. So I think that's part of what I guess has caused me to recoil from some of his films.
Yeah, and I do appreciate both halves of his Halloween 1 for what they are. But I don't know if I'm doing a stack ranking, it's
Yeah, you got
certainly
to
on
put
the
them in some
lower end.
order. Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly on the lower end for me, and I appreciate that with 2, he got to be himself more. You know, it, 2 is a stylish film. 1 is a little bit more paint by numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his hands were tied on 1. I think he has said his hands were tied on 1 and 2. He had a little more freedom outside of
Yep,
the Weinsteins. Yeah.
yep. And he definitely prefers 2 as well.
Yeah, I think 1 was sort of a dry run for the studio, for the Weinsteins, for everyone. Kind of like, can he do this? Can he pull it off? I think once they saw that, they were like, let's give him another one. He had more artistic freedom. My only like main gripe with part 2 is just that end, but a director's cut cleaned that up a little bit.
You
Yeah.
just you really preferred the Netflix documentary.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was not emotionally mature enough for 2 when it initially came out because that was what, probably like
Yeah.
2007, somewhere in
That's a
there?
good way to put it. Yeah.
2009.
Because
2009,
you have to be
yeah.
grown up to enjoy
Oh
Rob
yeah.
Zombie films.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You have to be a grown up.
So 2007, 7, I think, is when the first one must have come
First
out
one.
then.
Yep. 2007, 2009. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm, like, sophomore in college during that time, and I was like, "Oh, cool, I can relate to some of this film because it's a remake of one of my favorites." And the parts I didn't connect with were the Netflix documentary parts that we keep, classifying them
Yeah.
as. And then 2 comes out, and I'm still not emotionally mature enough at that point in time, getting ready to graduate college.
Maybe still not.
I still don't know if
Me,
I'm
I don't know if I
emotionally
am. Yeah.
mature enough. Yeah. Alright, so that's, your number 10 counting backwards. So we got Halloween Resurrection, Halloween Kills, Halloween 5, Rob Zombie, Halloween 1. So your number 9, Descending.
The first Blumhouse film, 28 Halloween 2018,
Hmm.
which again is fine. It's a good movie. I think that it set things up, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a spectacular film. There are good parts to it that I could sit here and sing the praises of. I did really like the podcaster characters. I thought that was a unique spin on not just the genre, but also like our fascination with true crime. Love the Jefferson Hall
Totally.
scene where he's
Yeah.
standing out there with a mask, like yelling at Michael. It's a trippy opening.
And the nod to H2O in the bathroom with the teeth. I just remember
Yes.
that part of the preview before I even saw the film being like, "Whoa."
Mm, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a good film. Nothing that is like overwhelmingly bad about it by any means. There's nothing that like I can sit here and like complain about, but it's solid.
So you can keep one on your rack and the other 2 disappear from your life forever. You're not ever allowed to watch them again. You have this remake, you have the 2009 Friday the 13th remake, and then you have the one that won't be on anyone's list ever of the Nightmare on Elm Street remake from whenever that was.
I mean, Elm Street's definitely not getting the nod. 2010, I think, is when that came out.
Yeah.
It's pretty close between Halloween 2018 and Friday the 13th, though. Friday the
Yeah.
13th, I can appreciate for what it is. I know a lot of people are like, they either love it or hate it. For me, it's kind of like in the middle of my Friday rankings. Like, it's good, but I guess slight edge to Halloween 20.
Yeah, I think those are 2 comparable executions. I just happen to enjoy the Friday 13th one more personally. I like how they merged like the first 4
First
movies
four, yeah.
basically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely creative. I give it credit for that. But people were super like love it or hate it with the Friday the 13th, and I was more like, "No, this is cool."
What about you, Jamie?
Friday the 13th for
Yeah.
me.
All right. Just let me distract us from the reason we're here. Keep bringing up other stuff. All right, so we got Halloween Resurrection, Halloween Kills, Halloween 5, Rob Zombie H1, Halloween 2018. Did you see this in the theater, Andrew? Were you
I
like
did.
waiting opening day?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think it was opening day, but I think it was like first week I was there. It was pretty quickly.
Did we see this in the theater? What was
I
our
feel like we
experience?
had to have, right? Oh, drive-in
Yeah,
in
it
the
was.
rain.
That was it
and
was raining.
Me
Yeah.
shouting at you.
I was like I refused to get in the car because I was like, no, you sit in a chair at the drive-in, and I was like the only person outside getting rained
It
on.
was pouring rain, and I was just trying to talk to John because that's what we do at movies. And I'm in the car with the
With our wives.
sound blasting, and I'm trying to talk to John out the window, and my wife was like, "You are yelling." I was like, "Why? I'm trying to talk to fucking John out here. You can't hear with the pouring rain."
All right. All right. All right. What's next?
We did trunk or treat that day.
Yeah, I lied to Kate and said we won, and anyone that did it actually won. She still to this day doesn't know. So sorry if you're listening to this, Kate. You didn't win. They gave everyone a $25 gift card.
She was so proud of that Harry Potter. story.
Everyone won.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Curse of Michael Myers. We've spent a lot of time talking about this film. It's got its flaws, but it's a sentimental favorite. There's a lot that I do like about the Curse of Michael Myers, and it's like sometimes you can love something while still acknowledging that it falls short in certain areas, and that's how I feel about the Curse.
Yeah. I mean, I've
I'm
shared my sentiment on this one. I also love it.
really awesome parts.
Yeah.
It's not a super cohesive film. Some parts I love, some parts I'm just like rolling my eyes or closing them.
Or
Yeah.
closing.
Or closing them. Yep. I can relate to that. But it's definitely a sentimental favorite. So it works its way into like this middle part of the list.
Cool.
All right, man. You're number 7 then.
H2O. I know we've talked about this one a lot too. It's a fun film with a great cast and underrated Michael Myers. We could sit here and talk about Chris Duran's performance as Michael all day long. That guy was amazing. But when you have the quality of actors that this film has, it's gonna be good. Josh Hartnett, Michelle Williams, LL Cool J, Adam Arkin, they all knocked it out of the park. It's a really it just goes from will forever wish that there was that deleted scene of Jamie Lloyd's headstone. I think just showing that headstone would have made all the difference in the world. Fans
Yeah.
like me would have been a lot more satisfied with that slight bit of narrative cohesion,
Yeah.
that tying to the past, but
And
for
that's
whatever reason,
innocuous. Like,
yeah,
even if it's the bus drives past it, like it could be
Yeah.
anything. It would
just
just be a
show us that.
nice, quiet little sprinkle. Yeah.
Yep.
Hello,
Had
Cool
that been in
J.
there,
Sorry, go ahead. I'm going to talk about something that's not important. So please
okay.
make an
I
important
was going
point
to say,
before I get
Big
stupid.
rat.
That's where I'm heading.
had they acknowledged Danielle Harris's character, the Jamie Lloyd character, it probably would have been higher on my list.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we love this movie, but LL Cool J is, I don't know, man. He makes me laugh so hard in this movie. I think he's great.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. Your number 6.
Zombies, Halloween 2.
Oh, man, that's higher than
That's
I
high.
know. It's higher than H2O.
Don't worry, my list is only going to get more controversial.
Well, yeah, we're getting to the top 5, but before we hit the top 5, why don't you?
Number 6. Whew.
Why number
Yeah.
6 for H2, man?
Man, this film, earlier you brought up Twin Peaks. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is his Firewalk with me. It's a visual masterpiece. It's moody, it's eclectic, it's all over the place. But what I say to people who don't like this film or perhaps feel like they don't get it is to stop trying to understand it. Watch the film, let the film wash over you, absorb it. It's like German expressionism. You don't have to understand it narratively. You
Just feel it.
feel this film.
Yeah. Yep.
When you look at it that way, it takes on this whole new, it becomes this whole new experience.
All right, man. Halloween 2, Rob Zombie, your number 6. All right, so it seems like it's going to get controversial. We're down to the top 5. So you're number 5.
The other Halloween 2.
Man. Okay.
It's a good film. People are kind of divided on this one. There's a lot of people that will have this as their number 2. Dan Ferens calls it his favorite sequel in our interview. There's a lot to like about it. But when I start to look at some of the other films in this franchise, I can't call it my second favorite for a few reasons. John Carpenter's story about drinking a 6-pack of beer just to crank out the script. When you think about that, like it makes sense. Like he was not in love with the story when he wrote it. It has some flaws baked into it. There's some logic flaws. The whole brother sister storyline, did we really need that? Or was that just kind of a convenient thing to like get past a creative hurdle? I don't know. But it's still fun.
I love the
You know,
characters in this movie.
I mean, that's the strength of the film is are
Yeah.
the characters.
Yeah. And it's strange because I think what you're describing is like the continuity within the writing is part of the issue, but also the way the characters are written is part of the success, right? So I think it's a weird tug of war with this one because it's a movie that I feel I love and rank higher than maybe it should be because of the fact that I Jamie and I both are very like character driven. Can I relate to you? Woman showing up for work late. You got Bud, you got Jimmy, you even got the poor security guy that gets claw hammered. Like the whole crew and the setting. I'm there for it. I love Halloween.
Yeah.
too. It's such a good one.
This one grew on me. I probably would have had it right around here earlier. I think it's moved up my list in
Yeah.
recent years. I do love you're right, the characters, and I think my main issue is just kind of I used to find it a little bit boring, just seems ridiculous to me now, but,
The pace
this is
is
my
slow though.
yeah,
It's quiet. It's a
slower
really
pace.
quiet film.
Dude, totally, there's just so many scenes of her kinda haphazardly wandering through the hospital, but I fucking love atmosphere.
Yeah,
I've grown to really love those scenes and just love that film, but I
for
can
sure.
totally understand the other side.
Hmm. Yep.
They took the challenges of the film, and by they I mean the creative team, and they turned them into positives. You know, having one location for a majority of the film could have been a hindrance, and they turned it into something special. I appreciate the fact that Halloween 1 is more suspenseful and Halloween 2 is a little bit more gory.
Yeah.
It's almost like the foreplay is over. It's time to like get to the main attraction now in Halloween 2. Michael is just ruthless. You know, there's no toying with the victims anymore. Like he's just like, I'm done flirting. It's time to get to business here.
Mhm.
I appreciate that about Halloween too. There's, you know, when you get this high on the list, there are no bad films anymore. And Halloween 2, like we could sit here and go over its positives all day long. I find it interesting in the lore of it all, like the different versions of Halloween 2, the TV version, the edited version, the theatrical version, and the
Yeah.
different meanings that come out of it. You know, like for example, does Jimmy live or not? Well, it depends on which version of the film you watch. I like the happy ending version where Jimmy and Laurie are together at the end
At the
because
end.
she has her happy ending. You know, Loomis and Michael died together in a fire, which is poetic. They should have died together after spending all that time with one another. She gets her happy ending. The story is over. I find that to be cinematic, and that is my preferred version, preferred ending.
Yeah. And
I agree.
I don't think we would have had the ending from Scream if it weren't for this movie.
Hmm.
Definitely. Great call out there.
Same kind of vibe. All right, so that's Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2. So number 4 for you.
Halloween ends.
Okay,
It's high.
that is.
Higher than most people, I will say that.
I did addition by
I
subtraction
mean, it
and
had to be high. If the
determine which was left, and I've been sitting here and I predicted your top 5, and I'm already wrong with 2 of them. So here we go.
Well, I wanted to hear your version. That would have been fun.
All right, so Halloween ends number 4 for you. That's super high. This is the last installment any of us got, and that we'll have for a minute here. So lay it on us, man. Why Halloween ends?
I appreciate an ongoing narrative, and in the Blumhouse trilogy, we get this story of the aftermath of not just what happened in 1978, but a really chaotic night in 2018. Halloween Ends is like coming back to this town and seeing how do you recover from trauma? how does a
Yeah,
town how does a town recover from a natural disaster, whether it's a hurricane, a fire? You know, how do you, like, you can either band together and help everybody put their houses back together, or you can turn on one another and you can be like,
yeah.
screw
Or
you,
isolate yourself
yeah,
entirely. Yeah, yep. Become a hermit.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it's a fascinating case study of what happens to this town. And when you look at the Blumhouse trilogy and you compare it to the first three original Halloween films, the overlap is there. You know, Halloween 1 and Halloween 2018 are very similar films. Halloween 2 and Halloween Kills both are centered at a hospital where Laurie is completely incapacitated for a majority of the film, and Michael is just running wild and violent. And then Season of the Witch and Halloween Ends are the films where you're trying to move away from that core narrative. And Halloween Ends is almost like taking the lessons from Season of the Witch and trying to apply them. How do you move this story away, but not as drastically? Well, you have to have Michael be in a little bit of this third film. It's not all about him. It's about the town. It's about Corey. It's about these other characters, but you have to have a little bit of Michael in there because that's what people rejected about Season of the Witch the first time around, was they tried to do this abrupt change. Well, now we're going to have him in there, but reduce his impact to the story. And we're going to try to hand the baton off and create something new, but a little bit smarter than we were in 1983 when we just tried to pull a fast one on everybody and they resented it. Halloween Ends is stylish. It's sexy. It's this masterclass in atmosphere. I mean, I could sit here and sing this film's praises all day long. Paul Brad Logan, one of my favorite interviews in the book. I think that's one of the interviews where I talk more than I do in others, because like him and I are just hitting it off, and there's more from me than I typically like to have in any given interview. This will be the third time Twin Peaks comes up. We talk about the impact of Twin Peaks on Halloween Ends quite a bit, and the like David Lynch's affinity for location and how that really came up and when they were making Halloween Ends. I just appreciate everything about this film. And I will forever love that scene of Corey and Allison on the motorcycle. And then when they're on top of the radio station together, like that's like every teen romance movie that I grew up appreciating all rolled into one, like the danger and the young love and all those feelings of like, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm attracted to it anyway. It's so
So
good.
moody. Just such a
Yeah.
moody film. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the score and even the songs. Like that song when they're on the motorcycle, as you referenced.
Yeah.
Dude, that's like synth track going, man.
It's
That's why
gorgeous.
I've in subsequent watches grown to like this movie a little bit more than I first did, simply because of the, as you said, the ambiance and the just the overall vibe of this movie. Really, really great. I really like the way that they portray Haddonfield. It's it's just like, I don't need to wax poetic on why I don't like it, but it's all of that stuff why I do like it more than I originally did.
Yeah. I think we've gone the other, like with Kills, we drifted the opposite direction from. For sure.
Totally. Yep.
All right, dude. Number 3. We've only got 3 left. Oh my God.
Halloween 4. I totally will understand why some people have this at their number 2 spot. It's as good as it gets as far as a sequel goes. It's a logical film where one story beat feeds into the next that feeds into the next, and everything just makes sense in this procedural like way. The characters are tremendous. The mood is tremendous. Like, it's just as much of like that Halloween and Midwestern feel as the original. I think Dwight Little gets it in a way that most directors don't, like how to create that feeling. Carpenter obviously did, but Dwight Little was like the only other director that really honed in on that Midwestern autumn time feel, and it shows. It's Halloween 4. Like, what could you possibly say about this film that hasn't been said a million times? Creates these new characters who are just as engaging as the first film's characters, whether we're talking about Kelly or her father or Brady. Like, they're well rounded and you feel like you know them. And when you're rewatching the film, they're like a group of old friends. You know them and they're so well rounded.
Like Vincent Drug is my local drugstore.
Yeah. And
exactly.
even I think it was in Kelly's interview, her talking about them going swimming after filming, right? Because they were like, hey, we had to do something to keep Danielle, entertained when we weren't filming. And you got a younger kid amongst older kids, right? And like them doing Marco Polo or whatever. Like that was such a sweet, humbling thing to read. And I found that so interesting that was like a thing that she extracted from the experience to care about, which was like, this was a communal thing we would do as a group, in the evenings after filming. I think that's so neat.
Too young for martinis.
Yeah, too young for martinis. All right, so your number 2 and your number 1. We already know what your number 1 is, which means that your number 2 can only be one thing.
Season of the Witch.
Yes, sir.
I absolutely adore Season of the Witch. I understand people's objections to it being this high on the list. I understand the flaws with trying to completely move away from Michael Myers as abruptly as they did, but it's just such a fun movie. It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers for that era. I love everything about the crazy mythology and the characters, and I just want to hang out with Tom Atkins' character. Like he's great. I don't know.
Drinking and doctoring.
Totally.
Yeah.
Drinking and doctoring.
We're incredibly fond of this movie as well. Like all of what you just said, we are right there with you. It's just one of our favorites.
Yes, I mean, I acknowledge that my list is controversial.
No, man.
And Ends being that high, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 being that high, certainly not everybody's list, and not everybody's cup of tea. But I think that's the fun of this franchise, is that everybody's opinions can be completely different. and they have justifiable reasons for doing so.
Yeah, and in this day and age, everybody's list is controversial, or
Yeah,
not
that's true.
It's just like everybody, and some people go out of their way to be controversial, I feel like, which
Yeah.
is always kind of annoying.
Yeah. People
But
just wanting to start a little bit of shit.
you would get absolutely no
Yeah.
argument from us on at least your top 5 that might be arranged a little bit different for us. Well,
Halloween
ends
ends.
ends
Yeah.
would not be in there. But, like, dude, those
Yeah.
would all be in the top 5 except for that. Yep. I think maybe we would probably switch H2O and just keep pushing ends down a little bit, but yeah, like
Yeah. Which
5 would be
feels like
higher
a
for
little
us.
bit lame because the first 4 are part of the top 5, but I really do love those first 4
Yeah.
films.
Yeah.
Like, really love them.
What's not to love about those first 4 films? They are classics at
Totally.
this point in time. I think the common theme with my rankings is that I appreciated the more bold entries, The Season of the Witch,
Definitely.
Curse, Rob Zombie's 2, Halloween Ends. Like they are the bold films in the franchise, and I like to give them their flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Andrew, thank you so much again for doing this with us. Amazing work. Andrew Grevas, Horror in Haddonfield, The Untold Stories of Halloween, hitting stores and Amazon on October 7th. However, you can go to Amazon now and pre-order. And do yourself a favor, check this book out. If you like 3 of the movies of this franchise a lot,
Even if you don't like the franchise,
yeah.
this book's incredible.
It's incredibly well done. Andrew, you did a really great thing, man. And we're grateful for you getting us an early view of it. So thank you.
I really appreciate it, and thank you for checking the book out, guys. That means a lot to me.
Of course,
Absolutely.
man. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.